Okay,
Your mic's not on? Yeah.
it's on.
Maybe it's not close enough to your mouth.
Is that any better?
There you
All right, can you hear me? Okay, well, this is the best I can do with the technology.
Do you want to use mine?
Yeah, we're good. Let's wait for somebody to yell at me, thank you.
Do you mind if we take an item out of order? Choose.
Oh. Okay. Okay, we're on it. All right, let's call the meeting to order. Next item is the minutes. Did everybody look at that?
Yep.
Do we have a motion?
I'll move approval of the move to receive the minutes.
Okay,
Second.
got a motion and a second. Cast your votes. All right, they're received. Next item is continuance requests and withdrawals. Before we get too far into this, we've got one member that's going to have to leave early. That'll leave 3, so we still have a quorum, and that means it takes 3 votes to do anything. So if we're down to 3 members, whether the vote is for or against, you got to get 3 out of 3. Some people don't want to do that and ask for a continuance. Doesn't matter to me, but I don't have any items for a continuance. Is there anybody here who wants to continue an item? All right, no consent docket, so Cindy, will you call the first one?
Item number 1, case number 16036 is an application for a special exception by John and Samantha Layden to allow home sharing at 8600 South Brookline Place.
Okay, go ahead, give us your name and address.
John Layden. I'm requesting the short-term rental consideration,
Okay,
8600 South Brookline Place.
all right. Nobody signed up to speak on this one. Does anybody want to address the board on this application? Okay.
I have a question about it. I mean, I don't know what you were going to discuss about it, but the length of it, if I could request more than a year.
So we'll just go over the application just a little bit.
Okay.
And for me, the term would be 3 years because it's a timely renewal. So it would allow you up to a 3-year special exception on this. And I just wanted to go over, the last time, it's a 2-bedroom, but we allowed 5 guests.
Yeah. Yes, sir.
And I wanted to make quiet hours 9 p.m. to 8 a.m. You okay with that?
Yes.
And then the maximum number of vehicles to be on the property, 2.
We've never had more than 2, yes.
So I think, and 2 fits in the drive.
Yeah.
And I wanted to make it so there would be no on-street parking during the quiet hours.
Right.
So overnight. And if you're good with all that,
I think
Yes.
we're ready for a motion unless there's anything else from the board.
I'll make a motion to approve case number 16036 for the purpose that it meets the statutory requirements for the special exception with the following modifications. This will be for a term of 3 years. Quiet hours are from 9 p.m. to 8 a.m., a 2-car maximum, and no on-street parking during quiet hours.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Cast your votes. You're approved.
All right, thank you.
Item number 2, case number 16040 is an application by Pillar Post Properties LLC to allow home sharing located at 8402 South Douglas Avenue.
The applicant here? Anybody from Pilar and Post Properties? Let's just put that at the end, see. Is there anybody here from the applicant on this one? Let's just put it at the end.
Item number 3, case number 16041 is an application by 10313 Plymouth LLC to allow home sharing at 10313 Plymouth Court.
Good afternoon. My name is Lizette Alvarado, and I'm applying for the special exemption for this 10313 Plymouth Court in Oklahoma City. And this is the first time as an application.
There's nobody signed up to speak on this one. Does anybody want to address the board on this application? Questions, comments from the board?
Just a couple of questions on the application. It's a 3-bedroom with 2 baths, and you say you can have a maximum of 8 guests.
Yep.
How can you get 8 guests into the house, sleeping-wise, beds?
Yeah, I'm gonna have a king bed in the master, a queen bed in the other bedroom, and then a bunk bed in the other bedroom. And then I'm gonna have a sofa bed in the living room.
Yeah. So, for me, on a first-time application like this too, I'd like to go with, 2 per bedroom plus 1, so a maximum of 7 guests instead of the 8.
Okay.
And I'd like to put quiet hours from 9 p.m. to 8 a.m.
Okay.
And, sorry, that's really loud. The number of vehicles parked, two in the driveway. Is the garage accessible?
Yeah, it is.
So maximum of 4 cars?
4
2 in the
cars.
garage, 2 in the drive.
Okay.
No on-street parking, and the term would be for a
Right.
year.
Okay.
If there's nothing else, I think we're ready for a motion.
A motion to approve case number 16041 for the purpose that it meets the statutory requirements for the requested special exception with the following modifications. Maximum number of guests shall be 7, quiet hours from 9 p.m. to 8 a.m., no on-street parking during quiet hours, 4 cars maximum, and for a term of 1 year.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Cast your votes. You're approved.
Thank you.
Item number 4, case number 16042, an application by Elite State Group LLC to allow home sharing located at 2036 Northwest 17th Street.
This is my application as well, Lizette Alvarado. It's the first time for this special exemption at this property.
Okay, I don't have anybody signed up to speak on this one. Does anybody want to address? Oh, I'm sorry.
I would like to oppose it.
Okay, hang on. Do you want to hear from the protester?
Yes.
Okay, you're up. Give us your name and address and
My name is Emily Casey. I'm a homeowner at 2023 Northwest 17th. I'm here to oppose the request for special exemption to allow short-term rental activity at 2036 17th Street. I'm very alarmed by the possibility of an Airbnb just a few doors from my house. I spent over a decade saving for the down payment on my house, and I chose 17th Street because of its residential character. I like knowing my neighbors. I like buying lemonade from the kids selling lemonade across the street, and we all regularly pitch in to take care of one another. Last Halloween, we had over 300 trick-or-treaters at my door, and 17th Street is really just not the place for a short-term rental. Allowing a short-term rental would, without a doubt, erode the neighborly feeling that makes our street special. Study after study has shown that this is what happens. Visitors that stay for just a few nights are not invested in the character of our block. Tourists are not the ones who build relationships or support local kids' lemonade stands. The city has invested significant resources in the Plaza District to strengthen our neighborhood, and a short-term rental will undermine that investment by replacing long-term neighbors with transient visitors. And so I ask that this exception be denied. I'm very worried that it would set precedent for other short-term rentals on my street, and it saddens me to think that my home, one day very soon, could be surrounded by visitors instead of neighbors. So please protect the neighborly character of 17th Street.
Hi, my name is Wendy Millette. I am also a resident at 2023 Northwest 17th Street, where I've lived since 2023. I wanted to share my opposition to the special exemptions for the home on the corner of our block. I'm concerned that this conversion of this residential property into a short-term rental will adversely affect our neighborhood. My primary concern is about the several studies that have shown that short-term rentals drive up rental prices. As has been documented by journalists with Oklahoma Watch, rental prices in Oklahoma City have been climbing over the last few years, and evictions have likewise skyrocketed. I worry that approval of short-term rental exemptions like this one will exacerbate the ongoing crisis of housing insecurity and homelessness in our city. A second concern is about the economic instability brought by tourism-driven markets like home sharing. The proposed exemption is proximate to the Plaza District, an area that has flourished in recent years with art walks, music festivals, Plaza Wall Festival, and more. There are numerous bars and restaurants, yoga studios, shops that depend on regular and sustained patronage from residents in the area. The introduction of a more short-term rentals in the Plaza neighborhood will only make these businesses more vulnerable to the ebbs and flows of tourism-driven market. So thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you. Okay, is there anybody else who wants to address the board on this application? Okay, questions, comments from the board?
Just a couple of questions, same questions that I had on the last application too, just to go over it. But it's a 3-bed, 2.5 bath, and you said you had maximum of 8 guests.
Mm-hmm.
And so the sleeping arrangements on that?
It was going to be a king bed, a queen bed, a sofa bed, and then the bunk bed.
Okay. And so for me, I'd need a maximum of 7 guests.
Yeah.
Like quiet hours from 9 p.m. to 8 a.m.
Mm-hmm.
A maximum of 2 vehicles.
2. Okay. In the garage?
Is the garage accessible?
There's a garage and then the driveway to it. That's why I put 4 there.
So 2 in the garage and 2 in the
driveway. Yeah.
And the term again would be a year. And I would request that you get with your neighbors, give them your contact information. Anything else from any of?
No, I just want to make a point on the people that came in protest. I do appreciate your feedback, right? I think that over the years, as short-term rentals have become more common and they've come before the board, the city council actually did listen and they did update the ordinance, right? So I think there are limitations as to how many you may or may not see in your area, right? And I think that was one of the primary concerns. Not trying to, downplay your concerns that you face. That's part of the reason that we always do an initial 1 year, just to see. And we've actually started rejecting renewal applications because the person who was overseeing the short-term rental was not doing a good job for the neighbors, right? So for you, I would encourage you that if the applicant is not following the rules that we prescribed here, definitely let us know or let the city know of such that, and when she does come up for renewal, all of that information will be taken into consideration.
And a way to do that would be through the Action Center. So call the Action Center, file a code complaint. The other thing I would say is that on this block, there's 23 houses that are available. 10% of said houses could be approved for a short-term lease, for a special exception. So that would be 2 in the block. 1 today and 1 other is at a maximum. And again, that was done by ordinance to try to limit the number of short-term leases in any one area.
Any other questions, comments? I think we're,
Make a motion to approve case number 16042 for the purpose that it meets the statutory requirements for the requested special exception with the following modifications. Maximum number of guests shall be 7, quiet hours from 9 p.m. to 8 a.m., 4-car maximum for a term of 1 year.
I'll second.
okay, we have a motion and a second. Cast your votes. You're approved.
Item number 5, case number 16043 is an application by Mark and Elizabeth Gellenbeck to allow home sharing located at 19727 Southeast 163rd Street.
Hi, I'm Elizabeth Gillenbeck, and I am,
Would you pull the microphone just a little bit
Okay.
closer so we can, thank you.
thank you. I'm applying for a home share for 19727 Southeast in New Walla.
All right, I don't think anybody signed up to speak on this one. Is there anybody in the audience who wants to speak on this application? Okay, anything from the board?
Just a couple of things to go over on the application. This is an acreage, so it's a pretty large area. It's a 4-bedroom home, and you had a maximum of 14 guests.
Yes.
So in order to get to 14 guests, could you tell how you could sleep that many?
Yes, the master bedroom has a king. We have a bunk room that has 2 queen and 2 twin, and then we have 2 queen upstairs in the loft, in the huge loft area, so.
Also, it's 3.5 bath.
We do have 3.5 bath, yes.
And it sits on 17 acres.
The ordinance allow us plus 2 per bedroom.
I mean, I believe,
For the acreage, I would go up to 2. I would allow it, but we're kind of limited by that number.
I don't know that it's a suggestion more than an actual, it's like a starting place. That's why for this and being on acreage, and the ability to sleep that many, I'd be willing to go for more than just 10, but
Sarah, is it an advisement on the number of guests, or is it more of a fixed number?
Sarah Welch, Planning Department. So the ordinance that you're speaking of is actually Chapter 13 is the licensing ordinance. So if it's okay, I'll just read it to you because we usually live in Chapter 59. It says, for licensing purposes, the maximum occupancy of any home sharing short-term rental accommodation at any time shall be no more than the number of bedrooms multiplied by 2 plus 2 additional occupants, or no more than the number of occupants allowed pursuant to a special exception granted by the Board of Adjustment, provided that, however, under no circumstance shall the total maximum occupancy exceed 16 occupants.
Okay.
they can only license for the number they can license for, but we can
Right. Okay.
make the change. And that's why I was, willing It's just the number.
So you said a king and then the additional rooms, what was the setup?
We have a king, 2 queens upstairs, and then a bunk room that has 2 queens and 2 twins. They're nice bunk beds.
And so no one's sleeping on a couch or anything like that?
No.
The 14 are actually
No,
bed
uh-uh.
spaces?
Yes.
Because of the loft. There's 2 queens up there.
So we have
There's 2 bedrooms
and a
upstairs.
full loft.
Yes.
It's a pretty large property.
I think for this one, due to the acreage, I'm willing to consider additional. So,
I would agree, and I would just say that, in stating the requirements, just include the fact that it is on 17 acres, just so we note that in our minutes.
okay.
And we own 5 acres. I mean, we own all 7 acres, but we live next door on 5 acres.
Okay.
So we're right there. I mean,
I'm good with the number.
Okay. So,
Yep.
and I can get behind 14 also. So 14 on the maximum, I want to put the quiet hours from 9 PM to 8 AM.
okay.
On a number of vehicles. I know you could handle whatever. I'm going to say 6 though, just so there's not that many cars running in and out of there on that drive.
Okay,
Okay,
And the term would be for a year.
okay.
okay. And can I ask the question of why a year versus the 3-year?
So the first time you
Oh.
come for a special exception, we will always be 1 year.
Okay.
For just a test, basically,
Okay.
see how it
Okay.
goes.
Okay.
And then we
Appreciate
have
it.
to go through this process again.
You do,
correct?
and when you do start, so it won't be from a year, you'll get a year for a special exception, but start that about 10 months from now. So you
Okay.
make sure to be timely.
Okay.
So a timely renewal is when we'll look at doing additional years, but
Okay. Sounds great. Thank you.
Good. Anything else?
I'll make a motion to approve case number 16043 for the purpose that it meets the statutory requirements for the requested special exceptions with the following modifications. This will be for a term of 1 year, quiet hours from 9 PM to 8 AM, and a 6-car maximum.
And I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Cast your votes. You're approved.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Item number 6, case number 16044 is an application by Alyssa Floyd to allow home sharing located at 3413 Northwest 21st Street.
Hi, I'm Tessa Dotson. I'm actually here to represent Alyssa Floyd. She's overseas right now in the military, and I manage the property right now. So I'm looking to apply for a special exemption for lodging at 3413 Northwest 21st Street.
I don't have anybody signed up to speak on this one. Does anybody want to address the board on this application?
How many bathrooms are on the property?
There is 2 full bathrooms.
Are they both in the main, or is there one in the
No,
garden
there's
suite?
one in the main, and then there's one in the in-law suite that is behind the property.
Do you rent these together? I'm presuming these are all rented at once.
Yeah.
So there was some code complaints without actual violations on this one.
Right.
And the special exception expired, looks like June of 2025. Is it operating right now?
It is not.
There's, I think, 3 written protests on this. Did you get those?
I didn't get them, receive them. She didn't show them to me, but I presume I know what they're about. So.
I think we can get you copies. Just,
Okay.
for me, I'd like for you to reach out to them just so they have your contact information so that it's better communication between the
Absolutely.
surrounding property owners and you as the manager.
Okay.
If there was anything to go on. Let's look at the application. It's the maximum number of guests that you were looking for is 8.
Yes.
How does that fit if the main office has, or main dwelling has 1, but has 6 occupants? Is that correct?
That's correct, yes.
So tell us how you get there.
So there's 3 bedrooms, all of which have queen beds in them, and in a central location to these bedrooms, there's a full bathroom. And then out in the in-law suite, there's a queen-size bed and a full bathroom out there too. So typically the matriarch and patriarch of the family usually go out there and have that, and then whoever's in the house share that local bathroom.
Without the king suite, or the suite in the back, I mean, we'd be looking at 1 bathroom in the main building, which limits it to 4. And I don't think we've considered this before, but I think under circumstances, if there have been code violations, I'm most inclined to reduce that to 6, as far as guests.
Are you
Yeah.
in agreement with that?
Absolutely.
Okay. I don't know that you had quiet hours listed, but I'd like to make quiet hours 9 p.m. to 8 a.m. And then on the number of vehicles, 3
Okay.
with no on-street parking.
No on-street parking?
No on-street parking.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's pretty common right now on all the applications. We're requiring that.
And then the term would be 1 year.
Okay.
Anything else? I think we're ready for a motion.
All right, motion to approve case number 16044 for the purpose that it meets the statutory requirements for the special exceptions with the following modifications. Maximum number of guests shall be 6. Quiet hours from 9 p.m. to 8 a.m. No on-street parking during quiet hours, 3-car maximum, and for a term of 1 year.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Cast your votes. You're approved.
Thank you.
Item number 7, case number 16045 is an application by Colton Wade Haskin to allow home sharing located at 2531 Northwest 11th.
Hi, I'm here representing Colton.
Give us your name and address,
Jasmine
too.
Hernandez. And what was it? Sorry.
Address, please.
Of,
Your
Your address.
oh, my address, 4801 Northwest 34th Street, Oklahoma City.
Tell us about the application, please.
I believe we're here just to redo it. Sorry, I'm just here to be for him. He's in Milwaukee currently working. He didn't give me much of an explanation.
So on this property, on this application, it's
It's for Colton.
new application.
New application, okay, yeah.
Anybody sign up to speak?
Nobody signed up on this one. Does anybody want to address the board on this application? Okay.
And this property is a duplex,
Yes.
and you're only offering one side of it?
We offer both sides. The other one is 2529, yeah. 2529 and then 2531.
And it is so the maximum number of guests are 8. Is that for both?
Yeah,
So
for
it's
both.
2 bedroom,
Yeah,
2
it's a
bedroom?
two-bedroom, 1 bath in both. The 4 guests allowed in each.
Do they have different addresses?
Yes,
So this is just 2531 right now?
correct. Yes.
Yes. So they would both have special exceptions and both have licenses? This would be, a maximum guest would be 4.
Yes.
So on vehicles on this, we'll go 2.
Yeah, we do
Maybe
two.
two
We
and
do like
two.
one, because the driveway's kind of like
In
an
the
L, so we
front,
do one
right.
here, one there.
Quiet hours from 9 PM to 8 AM.
Yep,
Term would be for a year.
okay.
And I want to put no on-street parking on it also.
Okay, so no more street parking?
Yes, no street parking.
No street parking, okay.
You said 2 cars?
Yeah.
Yes.
And so just so we're clear, we're approving just one half of the other one. And the other one's already been approved for a home sharing license.
Okay.
I'm guessing since it's here, it met all the other qualifications. Okay. We ready?
Yeah.
Okay.
Unless there's anything else, I don't have anybody signed up.
All right. Motion to approve case number 16045 for the purpose that it meets the statutory requirements for the special exceptions with the following modifications. Maximum number of guests shall be 4, quiet hours from 9 PM to 8 AM, no on-street parking during quiet hours, 2-car maximum, and for a term of 1 year.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Cast your votes. You're approved.
Thank you.
Item number 8, case number 16046 is an application by James Barnum to allow home share located at 218 Northwest 28th Street. This was in the HL Historic Landmark Overlay District, and the Historic Preservation Commission gave a recommendation of approval yesterday on 9/3/25 to recommend to the Board of Adjustment.
Give us your name and address. Tell us about the application, please.
James Varnum, 218 Northwest 28th Street.
Okay. And I don't have anybody signed up on this one. Is there anyone who wants to address the board on this application? Okay.
How many bathrooms are there?
4 total.
4 bathrooms total? Not bedrooms, but, so how many bedrooms are there?
4.
4 bedrooms, and how many baths?
4.
How large is this property?
It's the lot or the,
Square footage of the home.
it's close to 2,000, I think, square feet.
And you're asking for a maximum of 8 guests.
Yes.
I want to make an adjustment to the quiet hours from 9 PM to 8 AM.
Sure.
On the number of vehicles, we'll put 3
Okay, sure.
with no on-street parking. And the term on this for the first time would be 1 year.
Ready for a motion?
No here to object or anything? Okay. All right, motion to approve case number 16046 for the purpose that it meets the statutory requirements for the special exception with the following modifications. Quiet hours shall be from 9 PM to 8 AM, no on-street parking during quiet hours, 3-car maximum for a term of 1 year.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Cast your votes.
The number of guests?
8.
8, yeah.
You're approved.
Item number 9, case number 16047 is an application by James Barnum to allow home sharing at 1344 Southwest 14th.
Okay, nobody signed up on this one. Is there anyone who wants to address the board on this application? Okay, anything from the board?
Just a couple of things on the application. Again, this is a 2-bedroom home. I want to adjust the quiet hours from 9 PM to 8 AM. if you're good with that.
Yep.
And the number of vehicles to be 2, with no on-street parking. And I also want to bring up the fact that this is a gravel driveway, and I believe it's supposed to be a hard surface, so it's something that if you're going to continue operating this on a home share, it would have to be paved
Okay.
in the first term of 1 year.
Okay. Ready for a motion?
You make that a condition, must be paid prior to approval?
I would say renewal, but give them a chance to get it done.
During the next year?
Yeah.
Okay. A motion to approve case number 16047 for the purposes that it meets the statutory requirements for the special exceptions with the following modifications. Quiet hours from 9 p.m. to 8 a.m., no on-street parking, 2-car maximum for a term of 1 year, and a requirement for the driveway to be paved within the year. If you so, it's 4 gas, yeah, and the paving requirement is if you choose to renew the property or the special exception, that will be factored in.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Cast your votes. You're approved.
Thank you.
Item number 10, case number 16048 is an application by Deanna Dixon to allow home sharing at 2408 Northwest 115th.
Good afternoon. My name's Deanna M. Dixon, and I'm here requesting a special exception for my home, 2408 Northwest 115th Street.
I don't have anybody signed up to speak on this one. Does anyone want to address the board on this application? Okay, anything from the board?
We'll just go over the application a little bit. It's a 3-bedroom home, and you're asking for 8 guests. So can you tell me how you sleep that many?
Yes, it's 3 bedrooms, so that would be 2 per bedroom,
Mm-hmm.
and then living room sofa bed was for 2 people.
Okay, would you be willing to go to 7 as a maximum guess on that?
Yes,
It's just the consistency that we've done
okay.
on a 3-bed. I'd like to make adjustment to the quiet hours from 9 p.m. to 8 a.m.
Okay.
And then maximum number of vehicles, 2 in the drive, and is the garage accessible?
It is.
So 2 in the drive, 2 in the garage. No on-street parking,
Okay,
and the term would be for a year.
okay.
How many bathrooms are on the property?
2.
2, okay.
And there is a written protest. I don't know if you've seen the written protest or not,
No.
but we can get a copy of that to you. It just to reach out to them so that you open line of communication with them.
Okay.
Ready?
I think we're ready for a motion.
Motion to approve case number 16048 for the purpose that it meets the statutory requirements for the special exception with the following modifications. Maximum number of guests shall be 7, quiet hours from 9 p.m. to 8 a.m., no on-street parking during quiet hours, 4-car maximum for a term of 1 year.
I'll second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Cast your votes. You're approved.
Thank you.
Item number 11, case number 16049 is an application by Vincent Wallace to allow home sharing located at 5901 North Terry Avenue.
Good afternoon. My name is Misty Stowe. I'm here in lieu of Libby Ross, here to represent Vincent Wallace at 5901 North Terry. It's a 3-bed, 2-bath.
Nobody signed up to speak on this one. Does anyone want to address the board on this application? Okay, anything from the board?
Just to go over the application a little bit on this, you have a 3-bedroom home, but you have a maximum of 8 guests. Can you tell me how you can get there?
One of our bedrooms has a bunk bed with a queen and a twin, and then we have a pull-out couch. And then a king and a queen in the other bedroom.
Okay. So, like I said to the last case, would you be okay with 7?
Yeah.
2 per bedroom plus the 1 for the
Yeah.
couch? On the quiet hours, I want to make them 9 p.m. to 8 a.m.
She has it from 8 to 8.
Yeah, in fact, I actually wrote down from 8 to 8 per application, sorry about that. I'm just
That's all right.
interrupt. Maximum number of vehicles to be 4, with no on-street parking, and the term would be a year.
Sounds good.
Okay, are we ready for a motion?
You gonna keep the quiet hours at 8 to 8, or?
Yeah, 8 to
Okay.
8.
Okay, motion to approve case number 16049 for the purpose that it meets the statutory requirements for the requested special exceptions with the following modifications. Maximum number of guests shall be 7, 4-car maximum, no on-street parking during the quiet hours listed in the application, and for a term of 1 year.
I'll second.
Motion and a second. Cast your votes. You're approved.
Thank you, guys.
Item number 12, case number 16050 is an application by James Willingham and Wale Willingham and the link to allow, Corey and John Link to allow home sharing at 901 West Eubank Street.
Hi, I'm Wiley Willingham, 413 Cricket Hollow in Edmond, Oklahoma. I'm looking for an exemption for our Airbnb. I let it lapse, and so I need to get another one, please.
Okay, there were some protests in my packet. And I don't have anybody signed up to speak on this one. Is there anyone who wants to address the board on this application? Okay, anything from the board?
Just a couple of things on the application, and so the license, did the license expire?
Yeah, it expired. I kept sending in money, but I guess it never got charged.
And then
I really
the-
realized I didn't have one.
The special exception itself, I think, also,
Yeah,
and so have you been operating it since?
yes.
I think I can see the error that was made on this one. I would probably lean to sticking with, reverting back to a 1 year, but rather than requiring that a specific time period elapse, I'm okay with going ahead and issuing an approval on this. But just based on the dates here, it looks like that there was confusion.
Yeah, because they didn't line up.
Yeah.
And they should line up now, so your
Okay.
license and the special exceptions to be.
I think that's where I
same
got
time.
confused. I kept getting stuff, and I'm like, I didn't pay it when it comes in, so.
And so I'm in agreement with you on that. So just to go over the application itself, the maximum number of guests you have for 5, it's a 2-bedroom home.
2 and 2, and then usually it's just a child on the couch or they sleep with their parents.
Quiet hours from 9 PM to 8 AM.
Correct.
The maximum number of vehicles to be 2,
Correct.
and the term would be a year. You did have a written protest. I don't know if you got a copy of it. We can get you a copy of that, just to reach out to them
Okay.
to, so that they have a communication with you.
Okay.
We're leaving guests as is?
Yeah, 5.
Correct, okay. Make a motion to approve case number 16050 for the purpose that it meets the statutory requirements for the special exception with the following modifications. Quiet hours shall be from 9 PM to 8 AM, 2-car maximum, no on-street parking during quiet hours, and for a term of 1 year.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Cast your votes.
Where do I get the copy of the, oh, thank you.
You're approved.
Item number 13, case number 16052 is an application for special exception for Jacqueline Lassie Jones Holdwin to allow home sharing at 3204 Southwest 104th Terrace.
Hello, my name is Jacqueline DeLuna. I'm here to apply for a special exception for the home on 3204 Southwest 104th Terrace.
Okay, nobody signed up to speak on this application. Is there anyone who wants to address the board on this one? All right.
Couple of things on the application. It's a 3-bedroom, 2-bath home, and you have a maximum of 8 guests. Can you
Yeah.
tell me how you,
It's a queen bed, a king bed, and then a bunk bed with a queen at the bottom and a single at the top.
would you be in agreement to 7 as a
Yes.
maximum?
Mhm.
Quiet hours from 9 PM to 8 AM?
Yes.
Number of vehicles, 2 in the drive. Is the garage accessible?
It is.
So 2 in the drive, 2 in the garage for a maximum of 4. No on-street parking and a term of 1 year.
Okay.
And I'm sorry, board members, I just want to make sure that Mr. Carpenter knows that you received his letter of protest today. Okay.
I got it, yeah.
1 written protest.
Okay.
And we can get a copy of that to you.
Okay.
Ready for a motion?
All right, motion to approve case number 16052 for the purpose that it meets the statutory requirements for the special exception with the following modifications. Maximum number of guests shall be 7, quiet hours from 9 PM to 8 AM. No on-street parking during quiet hours, 4-car maximum for a term of 1 year.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Cast your votes.
Thank
You're
you.
approved. All right, before we get to the appeal, that's going to take a while. Let's go back to number 2.
Item number 2,
Yeah.
case number 16040, a special exception by Pillar and Post Properties LLC to allow home sharing at 8402 South Douglas Avenue.
Okay.
Good afternoon. My name is Rick McCormick, and the owner of Pillar and Post. Would you like for me to make a statement or receive questions first?
Hang on just a second. Nobody signed up to speak on this one. Does anyone want to address the board on this application? Okay, anything from the board?
We bought the property and rehabbed it extensively. It's in as you turn onto the street, there's 10 standalone townhouses, and you can see the photo there. This one is on the end. There's nothing behind it, nothing on the side. There's ample parking, both in an oversized 2-car garage in the street, and there's an actual place on the right-hand side as you face it. We've got it equipped with a rotating camera out front, a camera in the back that are attached to both my phone. I've got a professional management company named Evolve that'll advertise it. I've got guest management people that live literally 3 to 5 minutes away from there that are on call, actually 24/7. There are no short-term rentals in that subdivision. Is 10 homes, and I have spoken with there's 2 members of the HOA, but I've spoken with the secretary both on the phone and in person, and they, from at least verbally, has support of the neighborhood and community to do what we're doing with a corporate rental and also short-term rental.
I don't have anybody signed up. Is there anyone who wants to address the board on this application? Okay.
So one of the things I want to go over on the application is the maximum number of guests. And you say it has 6 rooms. Is that 6 bedrooms?
No, sir, it is a 3-bedroom. It's listed on the rolls as a 3-bedroom. It's actually 4, but a 3-bedroom, 2-bath is the way it's listed. Set with a king-size bed in the largest bedroom. It's set with a queen, actually 2 queens in another bedroom. Then there's 1 bunk room that has a 2 full-size, and then a twin, a single on top. So there is sleeping without anybody being on the sofa or the floor or whatever for 12.
But two bathrooms?
Yes, sir. Two full baths.
What is the square footage of the property?
1,612 square feet.
And a condominium property, I could get behind a 8 as a max.
Again, I think we used the,
3, just 2.
yeah, well, and the fact that I think the ordinance also says 4 per bathroom.
So if you'd be in agreement, I could get to 8 maximum guests, but that's as far as I could go today.
8, yes, okay.
So when you advertise it, it needs to advertise as
Say it again, I'm sorry.
when you advertise it, it needs to advertise as a maximum of 8 guests.
Of 8, yes, okay.
Quiet hours from 9 p.m. to 8 a.m. Is the garage accessible?
Yes, I mean, yeah.
So I'll go with maximum of 4 cars
Sure,
and a term of 1 year.
sure.
Are we worried about on-street parking on this one, since it's,
In a
They'd have to
condominium,
go
that's
out
what,
to Douglas to park on the street.
yeah.
what's that?
So it's within the condominium property. I would rather have no on-street parking.
Okay, I just mentioned that.
No parking on the street, certainly.
During
It's-
quiet
it's-
hours.
I agree. It's a long ways from the street, so.
Right, right. But I don't know that it'd
On
be.
the end of that block, if you parked on the east side of the property, that's fine.
Yeah, it'd probably be rare that there's 5 automobiles there, but there's comfortable parking for 5. I mean, you can't see it real good in the photo, but it's a very comfortable on that right side, and then 2 in the garage and 2 on the driveway.
4 cars?
Yeah.
Okay.
Anything else? No?
Ready for a motion?
All right, motion to approve case number 16040 for the purpose that it meets the statutory requirements for the special exceptions with the following modifications. Maximum number of guests shall be 8. Quiet hours from 9 p.m. to 8 a.m. 4-car maximum, no on-street parking during quiet hours for a term of 1 year.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Cast your votes. You're approved.
Okay, thank you.
Item number 14 is case 16005, is an appeal by Box Law Group on behalf of Bailey Sparrow from the decision of the Historic Preservation Commission regarding HPCA 25-00061, located at 442 Northwest 20th Street.
Good afternoon. David Box, 525 Northwest 11th Street, here on behalf of the appellant. So what you have before you is an appeal from a partially adverse decision of the Historic Preservation Commission. You are tasked with performing a de novo review when you hear appeals from various boards. That means that you are now in the place of the HP Commission to render judgment on this application with no deference given to the decision made by the HP Commission. Why I say it was a partially adverse decision is that there were 2 items on the docket that day. The first item was demolition of the existing garage structure. The second item being approval of the replacement garage structure. The reasons for the demolition are irrelevant to this, but the HP Commission did grant approval as it relates to the demolition of the garage. The denial was by a vote of 4-2 on the replacement garage. What's at issue today is whether or not the 2-story proposed garage is appropriate, compatible with the guidelines, and should warrant your approval. You've got a brief from both my office as well as Mr. Work. So I trust that everyone's read that, and there are exhibits contained therein. But I'd like to start with the staff report. And what I handed out are 3 documents, one of which being the staff report that went to the Historic Preservation Commission, and then the other 2 are simply the exhibits that are contained within my notice of appeal, all of which you already have, but wanted to get you the color versions in case what was printed out was not, in fact, color. What I think is important is that we focus on what it is we're proposing and why. So what we are proposing is a 2-story garage. Why we think that's important is because there are multiple examples of other 2-story garages in the neighborhood. It is not an uncommon scenario where within a historic neighborhood, particularly Heritage Hills, you would have in the back of the property a 2-story garage with adequate parking on the ground level and then some form of an apartment above. That's a common theme. I live in Heritage Hills, I have it. Perhaps there's other people that are going to appear today that live in Heritage Hills that also have that same condition. Jeff Blake is the architect. He's also here with me. He's going to discuss his design process, his analysis when he was preparing the documents, and ultimately why he decided on the roof pitch, the style of the structure to be minimally visible from the right-of-way. So just a few highlights. I do want to point out as we go through the staff report, so that's the document I'm looking at first. There were 2 items. Again, we've touched item 1. Item 2 was constructing a 2-story garage. What I think you're going to hear a lot of is complaints about the height. It's important to note, under the municipal code, a 1-story structure is 20 feet tall. And although this is 2 stories, the manner in which Mr. Blake has designed this, it's only 23 feet in height, barely above what would be considered fully compliant at 20 feet in 1 story. The other thing that we're doing here, there's an encroachment with the existing structure that will be corrected with any new structure that is built. So as we move on page 4 of that Historic Preservation staff report, what you will see is a regurgitation of the various portions relevant to garages under the guidelines. And as you go to page 5, what you'll see is certain provisions that we think we are fully compliant with. Specifically 4.4.7, design a new garage to be secondary to that of the property's main historic building. There's commentary throughout the staff report saying that we did just that. 4.4.9, materials used for new garage to reflect the property's historical development and the use and functions of the garage. Materials used for the exterior facades of the garage were often different, less costly than those used for the primary building. Again, we meet that. What this will come down to is the discussion of 2-story verse 1. Part of what we handed out were, again, the exhibits contained. And if you go to Exhibit B, within my notice of appeal, Exhibit B is a portion of the open records request response that we received. And what we found was that there were, I believe it was 55 instances in which a 2-story garage was allowed to be built. Now, there were some that I think were perhaps more relevant to our discussion, and staff, in their analysis on page 7, moving back to the staff report, notes that. What it says, beginning at the second full paragraph, well, first it says, the applicant has provided many previous applications for 2-story replacement garages that have been approved by the Historic Preservation Commission in the past. Then it moves on and says, however, there are a few examples provided that do not show similar circumstances at this current case, that do show, One such example is case HPCA 24-104. For this case, the existing 1-story garage was not historic, but the historic condition was known to be a 1-story garage. The property had an abutting 2-story garage, so the applicant was allowed to also construct a 2-story garage. Why that's important is we are immediately adjacent to a property that has a 2-story garage. So we share the same condition as this. The next paragraph, another such case is HPCA 23-103. This case is a bit different. Now, in the end, what you're going to see is it's a bit different in a way that cuts more to my argument. As the applicants here propose demolishing a presumed historic 1-story garage, why that's important is our condition is also a presumed historic. That's what staff calls it. There's no documentation to show, in fact, that what is there now is the historic. It's simply a presumed historic. So back to the other companion case. The applicants here propose demolishing a presumed historic one-story garage, and they propose replacing the historic garage with a two-story garage. The difference for this case is that there were not any abutting two-story garages or a prevalence of two-story garages on the block. But yet, the HP Commission approved that two-story garage. Why that's important is here, we are presumed historic, just like in this case, except for we actually do have the presence of two-story garages on the block, and in fact, directly abut a property with a two-story garage. So yes, it's different, but it's different in a way in which this case it was approved for a two-story garage is more of an outlier and frankly failed to meet the guidelines in a manner in which we actually do meet the guidelines. To be clear, staff, and I'm not sure I have any cases where I'm standing here arguing where HP staff has recommended approval, but they actually recommend approval. It's an alternative, approve or continue, but for the two-story garage, approve item 2 on page 8. So they are recommending to approve item 2. So when we then move into their analysis of our garage, what they say is, the proposed two-story garage does not appear to be out of scale or proportion to the rest of the block or surrounding structures. Due to the slope of the roof, the proposed garage does not increase the visibility significantly compared to the historic garage. The design and proportions of the proposed garage are compatible with the surrounding district. It appears the proposed garage meets applicable guidelines. That is significant because a lot of these guidelines are judgment calls. They're not black and white. They're not absolutes. It's guidelines. And so what we have to do is, on balance, take into account the surrounding environment, take into account the design, take into account the impact that this may have. And when you look at all of those things, our opinion is that's why staff recommended approval, and we believe that the proposed design meets all of that criteria and would be a wonderful addition to the neighborhood. I want to turn it over briefly to the architect to walk you through what we have called out in our brief as Exhibit B, to walk you through his thought process on design and ultimately why he believes this will be minimally impactful, if any.
Jeff Blake, 1020 Northwest 81st Street. Gumerson Blake Design Builds is the company. So yes, we started early on consulting with staff what would be an acceptable revision to this garage or replacement. It was too small to fit modern day vehicles, while some small vehicles will fit in the garage. Two larger size trucks or SUVs did not accommodate. And so we increased the size of the garage to make that work for modern day vehicles. We're preserving more or less all the architectural fabric of what you see today. So we would use similar siding, finishes, rafter tails would match, preserving roof pitch as is originally, on site today. It's important to note when we talk about historic and original, the garage doors on this garage are not original today. They're new. Parts of the siding have been replaced. The corners of the siding and such have been replaced. They are not original. Rafter tails have been cut off and replaced, not original. The passage door of the garage does not currently even comply with HP standards. It is not original. We're literally at the end of the day in questioning the originality of some 2-inch siding. The roof is not original either. Of course, those replace over time. And so we kept that very shallow 4-pitch roof, simply extruded up to accommodate the second floor footprint. And what you're looking at in this picture is a less than 6-foot difference between the garage behind us and the garage we're proposing, 5'6". When you look at the sight lines and that study, yes, it's more visible above the fence, but it's not towering. And again, as David said, we're within 3 feet of a 1-story compliance structure that's actually accomplishing a 2-story function. So we weren't overreaching. We didn't try to make this a whole lot bigger than it needed to be, other than to fit 2 cars and a stairwell. The footprint above is minimal, and So we tried to be, considerate to the neighborhood and modest in the approach for doing this project. Any questions? Does that? Thank you.
I'll try to be brief here in closing. So I want to turn back to page 7 of the staff report. So I think what would be allowed, maybe explicitly, would be a 1.5 story, and staff does a good job of explaining on page 7 where they say, in many cases where the applicant wanted to add space above the first story of the replacement garage, the applicant would propose a 1.5 story garage, which is allowed in most cases. However, a 1.5 story garage sometimes creates unusual and non-typical proportions and roof forms, and are often less compatible with the surrounding district as compared to 1 story and 2 story garages. And so I again emphasize staff telling you at page 7 of their report, the proposed 2-story garage does not appear to be out of scale or proportion to the rest of the block or surrounding structures. Due to the slope of the roof, the proposed garage does not increase visibility significantly compared to the historic garage. The design and proportions of the proposed garage are compatible with the surrounding district. What you have before you is compatible with the district. It is what is prevalent within the district. The existing garage is approved to be demolished. Most of the time that we're fighting in HP, it's about whether or not we should be allowed to demolish. That is settled. What we're simply trying to do is come back with a new garage that meets all of the requirements of modern life, is consistent with what was there historically, also consistent with what is next door. Perhaps this image is the most striking. What is next door to us is a 2-story garage. What we propose is a 2-story garage, except only 23 feet in height. That's only 3 feet taller than what is allowed for a, quote, 1-story garage. So you're going to hear, as you do in all HP appeals, that the very fabric of historic preservation is perhaps being ripped by approving this. I would simply direct you back to the staff report in which they gave you a detailed analysis in which they recommend approval. We're happy to answer any questions.
I just have one. Do you guys have the difference in the height relative to the existing 2-story garage?
The one next door?
Yeah, I'm only asking just because of the elevation difference in the grade.
5'6".
Okay, thank you.
Anything else from the board? Okay. Kelly, I'm going to call on you next, and do you want to speak, or do you want me to follow your order? I'll do it whichever way you want.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Kelly Work, 105 North Hudson, Suite 304, Oklahoma City. I appreciate your offer. We do have an order of presentation that I think you've been provided, and we would ask that we follow that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Jane Jenkins, you're up.
Good afternoon. My name's Jane Jenkins. I reside at 220 Northwest 19th Street. I am a resident of Heritage Hills. I am the recently retired president of Downtown Oklahoma City Partnership, and I've had a 39-year career that encompasses historic preservation, including 3 years as the director of a regional office for the National Trust for Historic Preservation. So what I want to talk to you today about is why guidelines for historic districts are important. They preserve a district's unique character and visual integrity. They protect the public and private investment of the property owners. They guide consistent and objective decisions for property owners and commissions, allowing you to be less subjective. And they support sustainable development by promoting responsible preservation and maintenance practices. They protect historic character because they ensure that the alterations and the new developments respect and reinforce this character. They require that new construction be within the historic context of the district. They protect the public and private investment and provide, I think this is important, a stable environment for future development. And they provide a basis for consistent and objective decision-making for local historic districts. Now, we're all people, and sometimes that isn't always going to appear that way, but that's what they are designed to do. You know, historic districts always seem to get a little bit of a bad rap. I can't do what I want to do with my property. You're restricting my property rights. But I want to give another example, which I think is important, with homeowners associations, which exist in many, many developments in Oklahoma City. Homeowners associations will enforce covenants, conditions, and restrictions that will govern landscaping, paint color, parking, and other aesthetic agreements. And they are also in place to ensure financial stability for the capital improvements and the property owners. You know, for example, they control, they will regulate exterior modifications, add-ons, or build-outs to assume uniformity and preserve the neighborhood's aesthetic. They will control house paint colors, decor, landscaping, and the placement and size of outbuildings on other structures. And they will address maintenance issues like unkempt yard, cluttered driveways, or the issue you just discussed, whether a driveway is gravel or supposed to be hard surface, or the presence of debris. In other words, we value our residential areas where we live, where they're historic or whether they're new. Many of them are governed by guidelines for a reason. Many of us have invested in Heritage Hills because we know that it's a historic district, and we know that our property investment will be protected by protecting suitable development within a historic district. I will tell you, you can't drive through Heritage Hills and not know that this is a historic area. You know, it's been a historic district since the 60s, and you know, you go into a neighborhood, you buy into an HOA, they're gonna charge you a fee on a monthly basis for the common areas. That doesn't happen in a historic district. There's no mandatory fee for being there. So sometimes many people aren't always aware of some of the things that happen there. I would also say, yes, the Preservation Commission has approved demolition of the structure. So it's not about the current condition of the structure that's there. It's about what they're going to build back and the appropriateness for that particular street in Heritage Hills. The garage that they showed is of a much lower elevation, and off that driveway is off a different street than the one that is shown. And so it's not really as comparable, I think, as an example for a two-story garage. I urge you to uphold the historic preservation guidelines. They're important now, and they're important for the future. Thank you.
Chris Stevens.
Hi, good afternoon. My name's Chris Stevens. I live at 438 Northwest 20th Street. My wife and I live just east, directly east of the applicant and his business partners who live there. I'm here to oppose the applicant's and his business partner's request and to ask the board to affirm what the Historic Preservation Commission voted on. I've lived in the neighborhood 20 years. I've never made it to a Board of Adjustment meeting. This is my first time. Thank you for your service, but I'm here because this appeal is important to my family, and I hope through the testimony this afternoon you realize that it's important as well to historic neighborhoods in the metro area. My wife and I moved to Heritage Hills because we valued the neighbors, we valued the neighborhood, and we valued historic preservation. We knew what we were getting into when we moved into this area. As Jane mentioned, historic preservation guidelines can be a pain in the neck at times, but we valued those historic preservation guidelines for the assurance and the predictability that those guidelines provided. We came into the neighborhood knowing that if an old garage reached the end of the road, that you had to get permission from HP to tear it down, and that if it was a one-story garage, you go back with a one-story garage. That's just a basic tenet of historic preservation. I never imagined in all my time on 20th Street that we'd have a new neighbor come in and try to tear down the old garage, which is actually in better shape than our garage, but then try to build up a garage or replace it with a garage that's 2.5 times the size of the current garage. And I say 2.5 times because the existing garage is 450 square feet, and the proposed replacement garage is 2 stories with 590 square feet each, so about 1,180 square feet. A garage of that size significantly impairs the sight line as you look at the west end of that 20th Street. It impacts the views from my backyard, from the backyards of those surrounding neighbors. But probably more importantly for this board, replacing a historic 1-story garage there now with a 2-story garage just contravenes the clear language of the historic preservation guidelines. And I do use that term historic 1-story garage intentionally because we see from the staff report, from the old sandboard maps from the 20s, that reference a 1-story garage here at 442 Northwest 20th. And the Historic Preservation Commission, after 3 separate sessions of hearing testimony, had a specific finding, quote, that the existing historic garage is a 1-story garage. It's a historic garage. We don't have to decide whether it's original. As Mr. Blake suggested, it's historic. It's at least 50 years old. It's from the map. It's historic. And as a result, this appeal really begins and ends once we acknowledge that the garage that's there now, the garage that I saw as I came to work this morning, is a historic garage, and therefore, under the guidelines, especially section 4.4.5, a replacement garage must approximate the size and the design of that garage, the historic garage that it's replacing. There's really no need then to get into this argument about whether this garage next abutting it is a 1-story or a 2-story garage, or how many 1-story garages there are on the block. By the way, just to Mr. Box's point, 2-story garages aren't prevalent in our area of Heritage Hills. On the 400 block of Heritage Hills and 20th Street, there's only one other 2-story garage in the whole block. That's at the other far end on the west side of the block on Hudson. And as you'll hear from later testimony, this garage to the south, actually under the guidelines, really for practical purposes is not a 2-story garage. For my backyard in the north and the south, it looks like a 1-story garage because that only has 1 story above the ground. So when you have a historic 1-story garage, under any fair reading of the guidelines, it's got to be replaced by a 1-story garage. Just to come back to a couple of points that Mr. Box made, sir, you asked the question about the height difference between what the garage is now or what a replacement garage. It may well be the case with their proposed 2-story garage that there's only a 5-foot difference, but the garage that's there now is nowhere close to 20 feet, and I think it's notable that they didn't mention that height right now, because to move up even to 20 or to the proposed site here would be a significant impact from the 1-story garage that's there now. Mr. Box suggested that sometimes these guidelines are judgment calls, but we have a situation here that actually is black and white under the guidelines because we have a garage that's historic, and it all ends there. When the applicant and his business partners moved into the neighborhood, they knew what they were getting into. I don't know what the interests of the applicant and his business partners were with this request, whether that's personal or business, but the bottom line is that this request violates both the spirit and the specific text of the historic preservation guidelines. Historic neighborhoods really care deeply about the preservation guidelines and the reliability on those guidelines. I hope you can sense that from the attendance today by residents of Heritage Hills and other historic neighborhoods. The vitality of a historic neighborhood like Heritage Hills really relies on fair and uniform application of the guidelines. So in a situation like we have here, where we have a historic garage to be torn down, that replacement garage under the guidelines must be of like size. I urge the board to affirm the decision of the Historic Preservation Commission. Are there any questions? Thank you all.
Good afternoon. My name is Stuart Hudson. I live at 825 Northwest 15th Street. I speak as a resident of Heritage Hills and separately sit on the board of Historical Preservation, Inc. I moved back to Oklahoma City and into Heritage Hills at the age of 34. We chose Heritage Hills based on factors common to those who are fortunate enough to choose where they live. access to good public schools, plentiful green space, and quiet and active communities where kids can roam and amenities are relatively plentiful. It's easy to assume that these factors are simply a function of an area's wealth. What I didn't understand until living in a historic preservation neighborhood and one supported by an organization like Historical Preservation, Inc., was that historic preservation was a key and necessary animating force behind the neighborhood involvement, leading to good schools, vibrant parks, and engaged communities. The HP District and HPI provided a vehicle for building community. It's part of why this vehicle was chosen by its residents several decades ago. Through it, we meet each other, laugh, disagree, and argue in person, resolve our issues, and engage in it and other civic institutions. In a time of societal division and isolation, HP and HPI build active community. HPI and the neighborhood it has helped restore through historic preservation connects neighbors, contributes to and supports public schools, manages and invests in the area's public parks, and patronizes surrounding shops and restaurants available to all. As you have and will hear, the case at hand is not particularly complex. The facts fall neatly within the map drawn by the HP guidelines. A one-story historic garage cannot be replaced by a two-story garage. The case at hand boils down to the appellant requesting an exception be made for them because the law is not tailored to their personal and business interests. Today, your decision reflects the importance of following established law and supporting HP and its communities in their efforts to create collective social, political, and economic good for their neighborhood and the city. The appellant's request cuts away at historic preservation and the HP guidelines, the animating force behind existing active communities. Instead of damaging the basis of the social and political and economic elements which make HP districts and Heritage Hills the very place the appellant and their counsel have selected as their home, I would suggest they accept not only the legal requirements of the location in which they freely choose to reside, but actively participate in bettering it for both their sake and for the city's. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Okay. Betsy?
Good afternoon. My name is Betsy Brunstetter, and I live at 604 Northwest 41st Street in Crown Heights. I'm here today to speak in support of the HP Commission's decision on this case. As an architect, I've spent most of my adult life serving in one or another and Rita knows this, of Oklahoma City's design commissions, including the HP Commission. I understand firsthand the responsibility the commissioners carry when reviewing cases. These decisions are not made lightly. They're guided by the ordinance and have a deep respect for the character of our neighborhoods. The HP ordinance clearly charges the commission to evaluate each case individually, weighing its merits with the standards set forth by the ordinance. In this instance, the commission rightly referred to the ordinance's requirement that any new garage reflect the configuration and form of the original garage structure. That's not arbitrary, it's intentional. It's how we preserve the integrity of the historic districts. Why does this matter? Not just to HP neighborhoods, but to Oklahoma City as a whole. I live in Crown Heights. Crown Heights became a historic district in the late 1970s, though compared to Heritage Hills, the homes are modest in scale. Their value, both economic and cultural, has endured. The HP ordinance has been instrumental in maintaining that strength, and benefits have rippled outward, revitalizing neighborhoods and commercial corridors adjacent. The surrounding neighborhoods have seen improvements in safety, cleanliness, and property values. And perhaps most importantly, a sense of pride and identity return to these neighborhoods. Upholding the HP's decision in this case is not just about one garage. It's about honoring a proven framework that has protected and uplifted our communities for decades. It's about reinforcing the standards that have made our historic neighborhoods resilient, vibrant, and deeply rooted in Oklahoma's history. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Putnam Heights.
Hello, I'm Ken Chancellor. I have lived at 3703 North McKinley for 49 years next month. My parents bought the home there because of the historic nature of the neighborhood and the long-term families that live in these historic neighborhoods make them special. When you're evaluating what to do today on this request, I'd ask you to think, why did the board choose to deny this request in the first place? They do a job just like you do. You get to decide if they made the correct choice, but 4-2, I think they said, was the vote against this proposal. And the other thing that struck me is the applicant is a business partners. That's not a family, and it's a little bit different. Historic neighborhoods need family-owned, and to reverse the board's decision would say that our historic districts are up for property speculators, and that's not what we want to maintain these neighborhoods. So I respectfully request that you uphold the board's decision. Thank you.
Kelly, you're up.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Kelly Work, again, here on behalf of Historical Preservation, Inc. And I do have a couple of exhibits before I begin that I'd like to hand out. Let me just say, Mr. Chairman and members of the board, while those exhibits are being passed around, Historical Preservation, Inc. Serves as the neighborhood association for the historic Heritage Hills neighborhood. This home that is the subject of this appeal is located at 442 Northwest 20th Street, which is within the Heritage Hills Historic Preservation District. As has been mentioned, the existing historic garage is one story on this property. The denial of the proposed two-story replacement garage by the HP Commission was correct and should be affirmed. The first of the exhibits that I've handed out is 4 pages from editions of the Sanborn map. These were actually copied and provided to the HP Commission by staff with the April staff report prior to the HP's consideration of this application. And so if you see on that first page, there's 2 pages to that exhibit. The first page is the 1922 illustration that shows the 442 Northwest 20th Street property. On the bottom of that first page is the page from the 1949 Sanborn map. Then on the second page is the page from the 1950 Sanborn map, and then on the bottom of the second page is the 1955. According to the county assessor's records, the home on this property was built in 1919. And as you can see from the earliest edition of the Sanborn map that we have available to us, the property shows both the dwelling and then the one-story garage there in the southeast corner of the property. And that is what exists today, is the one-story garage at the southeast corner of the property. According to the standards and guidelines for the historic preservation districts that have been adopted by the City Council most recently in 2019, where a historic garage is one story, a replacement garage shall also be one story. And that is set out at section 4.4.5 of the standards and guidelines. And it states, construction of a replacement garage shall approximate the original configuration, form, massing, style, placement, and detail of the former garage. What the HP Commission and this board on appeal from a decision of the HP Commission is to conduct its review and make its decision based on the merits of this particular case. The guidelines are very clear about that directive. And the zoning ordinance, which adopts the city's historical preservation ordinance, states that the purpose of the historic preservation review that is set up under the zoning ordinance is to preserve the integrity of historic and architectural resources and to ensure the compatibility of new work constructed. In review of applications for certificates of appropriateness, and that's what has been applied for here, obviously those go to the HP Commission and then on appeal to this Board of Adjustment. The ordinance directs that the HP Commission and the Board of Adjustment are to follow the preservation guidelines and standards. That's at section 59, section 4250.4D. For purposes of this appeal concerning 442 Northwest 20th Street, the standard for garages is clear. Again, that is in section 4.4.5, which provides that if the historic garage is one story, a replacement garage shall approximate the original configuration, form, massing, style, and location. That's specifically set forth in the guidelines as a standard. We know here that the historic garage was one story under the guidelines. The consideration ends there. A replacement garage shall also be one story. Other examples of permitted two-story garages at other locations in historic districts around the city do not provide support for approval of a two-story replacement garage here. The decision here is to be made based on the merits of this particular case, and a two-story replacement garage here would not be consistent with the existing historic one-story garage or with the scale and design of other garages in this block of Northwest 20th Street between Walker and Hudson. The two recent examples that were referenced by the attorney for the appellant do not support this application. They are located, the first one at 930 Northwest 21st Street, which is the case with the case number HPCA 23-00103. The second that was referenced is case number HPCA 24-104. That one is located at 531 Northwest 16th Street. Both of those properties are located in the Mesta Park Historic Preservation District, and both involved replacement of structures that were not historic. The 930 Northwest 21st Street property was replacement of a non-historic carport. The property at 531 Northwest 16th Street involved the replacement of a non-historic garage that was built in 2001. Reference has also been made to the abutting property, which actually fronts on 19th Street, the property that's located at 439 Northwest 19th Street. It also does not support their request. The garage at 439 Northwest 19th Street, as defined under Oklahoma City's zoning ordinance, is actually not 2 stories. It is a 1-story garage with a basement. And the lower level of that garage is entirely below grade and is considered a basement, not a story, as defined under the zoning ordinance. And the second exhibit that I asked to be passed around are the definitions from the zoning ordinance, both of story and of basement. And this is at section 59, or excuse me, chapter 59, section 592150 of the zoning code. So a story is that portion of a building other than a basement included between the surface of any floor and the surface of the floor next above it. So it specifically excludes a basement from the definition of story. And then a basement is that portion of a building having more than 1/2 of its height below grade. And here, and if we can perhaps put up the picture from that view from Walker that shows the garage there on, that actually faces onto Walker. That is the property there on, that is addressed on Northwest 39th Street at 439 Northwest 19th Street. As you can see there, the garage portion of that structure is entirely below grade. So the property, the garage itself appears visually both from 19th Street and from 20th Street as a 1-story structure. It is a 1-story garage with a basement. As determined by the HP Commission, this proposed 2-story replacement garage at 442 Northwest 20th Street would have an adverse effect on the historic character of the district. It is not consistent with the standards and guidelines that the Commission and this board are directed to apply by the ordinance. A replacement garage where the existing historic garage is 1 story shall be limited to 1 story according to the standards. The decision of the HP Commission to deny a CA for a 2-story replacement garage here is correct and should be affirmed. There is no legal basis for this board to find the decision of the HP Commission to be in error. We would ask that you affirm the HP Commission's decision. I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have of me.
Is this the last speaker? That's all I've got signed up. Is there anyone else who wants to address the board on this application for or against, this appeal for or against? And Katie, I'll get to you in a minute.
I did have a question for Kelly. So I'll preface this by saying I do agree that the other certificates of appropriateness that were issued are not relevant as sufficient support for granting this appeal, but I do think that it's pertinent to how the guidelines are written. I mean, it inherently does consider what the structure of the garages on properties within the neighborhood and adjacent properties. That being said, I do find it interesting the definitions that you provided, separating that difference from the basement from a story. Do you have the square footage of the amount of this structure that is subgrade versus the total square footage of that structure?
I do not. I don't know the size of the structure that is the garage on the property on that is addressed off of 19th Street.
Okay.
Go ahead, David.
Yeah, I'll try to be brief. So Let me get something in the staff report here. My belief is that the staff does not call that a basement in their staff report. The staff calls it an adjacent two-story structure. So the staff doesn't, at least in their analysis, call it a basement. They call it an adjacent two-story structure. One of the undertones of each of the speakers was that somehow it is black and white, and it's an impossibility to go from a 1 to 2-story structure. We, of course, know that that's not true because our open records request, there were 55 approved 2-story garages, and approximately 20 of those were 1-story structures that went to a 2-story structure. So my only point is perhaps it's not evidence that you have to approve this 2-story because others were approved, but speaker after speaker got up here and talked about consistent decisions, predictability, proven framework. Yet, there are 55 examples of 2-story garages being built, and approximately 20 of the 55 were previously 1-story. So it cannot be true that you're not allowed to go from a 1-story to a 2-story. And in fact, in the staff analysis contained within the staff report, outside of my example provided in the exhibit, is the HPCA 23103, which the same guidelines govern. Now, they also try to make some distinction about that one not being historic. So let's use the words that the staff uses. On the HP 23103, it says, as the applicant here proposed demolishing a presumed historic garage, they said, and they proposed replacing the historic garage. Well, on the second page of our staff report, staff calls our garage presumed historic. So there's no distinction to be made about whether or not it is or is not historic. It's the same situation, except in the HPCA 23103, of course, there were no 2-story garages anywhere around it, and they say the difference for this case is that there were not any abutting 2-story garages or a prevalence of 2-story garages on the block. Whereas in here, we of course have a directly abutting 2-story garage. They now want to call it a basement. That's not what staff has ever called it. It's a 2-story garage next to a 2-story garage. So we believe that the guidelines do allow it, and of course it can't be that black and white because staff recommended approval of item 2. If it was that black and white, perhaps they wouldn't have been accepted our application or would have squarely recommended denial. I know Mr. Voorhees has been on here long enough to see multiple appeals from HP. They are not shy about recommending denial when they don't believe it meets the guidelines. So the fact that, 1, they recommended approval as an alternative, 2, we have 55 examples of 2-story garages, approximately 20 of which were going from a 1 to 2-story. We know that that simply isn't true, that the predictable framework demands no 2-story. That flies in the face of all of those CAs that staff produced as a response to my open records request. So we would ask that you grant my appeal.
Anything from the board for David?
Yeah, I just...
Oh, and we do, sorry.
Go ahead.
You had asked a question about the garage behind us. It's 968 square feet, which is larger than the square footage of ours. The one right there.
Oh, I see. No, just for clarification, I was asking about that square footage just to compare it to the definition that Mr. Work provided in regards to the basement, to be able to calculate how much of that was below grade, but...
it's the first time I've seen the use of the word basement, so...
I understand. And so I agree that I think it's clear that the guidelines themselves, not based off of any argument that either party has made, just reading through the guidelines themselves, show that there is a path for a 1-story garage to become a 2-story garage. I don't think that's the issue here. What I do have an issue with, and I don't know if staff can speak to this, Sarah or Katie, but in 4.4.5, It states the construction of a replacement garage shall approximate the original configuration, form, massing, style, placement, and detail of the former garage as described by photographic or other documentation. And we've kind of touched on this topic a little bit here today, but when you go to 4.4.11 and 4.4.12, some of the language varies. Specifically in 4.4.12, it says when no photographic or other documentation of a previous historic garage is available. And so I want to know how staff is determining historic, because I did see the word presumed used, and it's been stated here verbally. What is the official determination of a historic garage? Is it something that comes from you all's office, or is it a decision that's made by the HP Commission that, in their opinion, they believe it's historic?
It's, I would say it's largely their discretion. If the presumption is generally that it is a historic structure. We know from looking at this building, we know from looking at the Sanborn maps, we know from the condition that it's in, the foundation, the construction methods, that this is generally of the era of the house, of the era of the historic district. And when that appears to be the case with a garage, then we consider it to be a historic structure. If a garage was clearly of modern construction, if it had been so heavily altered that there was no historic integrity left to it, then they may say, we don't believe this to be a historic garage. This is a modern garage. This is a garage that no longer retains that integrity. They don't typically in the meeting make a formal statement of it's historic or it's not. It's just, in a case like this, it's just assumed that it's historic based on what we can see.
Okay, that is helpful. And then just to follow that up, when it talks about no photographic or other documentation of a previous historic garage, what documentation or what photo would be sufficient to essentially void this portion of the guidelines? At what level of documentation would allow staff to say 4.4.12 doesn't apply here because we have this photo or this documentation which squarely cites this as being historic?
So obviously when the garage is still standing, we have documentation of the historic garage because we're looking at it. If it's a garage that's been demolished recently enough that we have photographs of the previously existing garage, then that's evidence. Heritage Hills has been a historic district since 1969, so we've got a lot of photographs where we can see the garage that was here historically was 1 story or was 2 story or was 1.5. We also referenced the Sanborn maps. I think that's not viewed as quite as concrete a form of proof of documentation because by and large those are accurate, but sometimes they're not. Really we're looking for, is it still there so we know what it is, or do we have photographs of the structure where you can clearly see that it was 1 story or 2 story?
Okay, and then just lastly, was staff's decision to recommend approval for this item based on this 4.4.12 or 4.4.11?
I would say staff provided a recommendation of approval or continuance because in a case like this, we don't anticipate that the commission's going to deny it outright. They are either going to find a unique circumstance that warrants approval of the garage, which, as has been noted, has happened in other cases where we've said you don't meet 4.4.11, 4.4.12, but based on this unique circumstance, we think the garage is appropriate, we think it warrants approval, or they're going to continue it and ask for either a revision to the garage or additional information, additional evidence of something. So that's why there are 2 options there for the commission to kind of give them the language to go on if they chose either of those 2 paths.
So they have the purview outside of using either one of these exceptions within the guideline. They have the purview to determine that a garage could go from 1 story to 2 story, even if it doesn't.
Yes,
meet
so
these
the ordinance outlines unique circumstances that can be identified by the commission when an application does not meet a guideline but meets the purpose and intent of the ordinance. That has happened in many cases on many different types of applications, including garages that have gone from a 1 story to a 2 story, where they've said you don't meet this guideline, but because of X, Y, and Z, we've deemed that this proposed garage is appropriate. So they have that ability. In this case, they didn't do that, but they do have the ability to do that.
And then one final question, so do you feel, is it staff's position that this configuration as presented by the applicant today is appropriate? Does it fall within that last scenario you just outlined?
Staff feels like this is a very well-designed garage. Staff feels like this is an appropriate design. It's compatible with the house. It's consistent with the design of the historic garage. The placement of it minimizes the visibility from the street, which is generally our primary concern. However, it does not meet that 4.4.12. That's my assessment of what those words on the page say. It doesn't, we have photographic evidence, so therefore a one-story should remain a one-story. And the commission did not identify any unique circumstances to justify approval of a two-story.
Thank you.
Okay. Anything else? Go ahead.
Yeah. While you're still there.
Yeah.
So under what circumstances has the commission approved moving from a one-story to a two-story? Can you just speak to that?
So some examples would be, we've seen some, on some side streets, there is a pattern where all of the garages are facing the side street and they're two-story, or many of the garages going up the side street are two-story. That's a dominant character along side streets in some of our neighborhoods. So we've had some examples where a one-story in a lot such as that was approved to go to a two-story. We've had some where it was a garage that was mid-block and that was tucked back behind the house so that it was very minimally visible from the public right-of-way, and those have been allowed to go from a one-story to a two-story. I would say those are the most common examples. Yeah.
Okay. Anything else from the board? Okay. David, Kelly, either one have anything else to add?
I might just mention that at the HP Commission hearing, the applicant's representative at that time was asked, were they contending that the existing garage was not historic? And the answer was no to that question. So that at least at that hearing before the HP Commission, they were not contending that the existing garage was not historic. Thank you.
Rita, I've got one, I think, simple question.
Let's see.
So the only thing that I'm contending with now is, I understand this case is to be tried de novo. That being said, we heard that HP Commission has within their purview the ability to grant approval of a two-story garage to replace a single-story garage, even outside of the exceptions that are listed there. But I understand we have some requirements when it comes to appeals. So are we still granted that same purview?
You are looking at this case de novo, and you are hearing the evidence as presented by each of the representatives of the party and as staff. And you have benefit of the staff reports, both from HP Commission's meeting and today's Board of Adjustment meeting. So you are to review all of that information and any other evidence that you received today to make your decision. So not just one thing, but all of it. And you are to determine which way you vote based on your determination based on the evidence as you review it.
Yeah, that's helpful. I just wanted to make sure that there wasn't a limitation to the scope of consideration for this specific case. And if that's not the case, then I'm personally in favor of allowing the two-story garage simply because staff outlines an argument that supports that it's appropriate for the area. We've got the visual that showed that the sight line isn't really affected any more than the original garage that was already there. I think the sticking point is 4.12 and 11, whether or not those could have been considered. And I was having a hard time thinking that it had to meet this requirement. If it does not have to meet this requirement, and we are we are provided the ability to look at all of these circumstances and make a determination on the appropriateness of this, then I'm in support of a two-story garage here.
So consider that this is an appeal, and so it is everything. And if you have additional questions about 4.412, then staff is here to answer any of those.
No, I don't think so. I think the only question was whether or not 4.11 and 12 had to be met in order to allow a two-story garage. If that's not the case, if the way I understand it now, HP would have had the ability to grant a two-story garage without citing that it meets 4.11 or 12.
You may want to hear from Katie on that part, on 4.11 and 12, since she wrote the staff report, and she would be in the best position to.
And if I could real quick, so they are guidelines. And so of course they had the option to approve it. Staff recommended approval of it. So of course they had the option to approve it. They're guidelines. You now sit in the same position as they did to administer judgment with the guidelines.
If I could just respond to that briefly, Mr. Chairman, as we mentioned in our presentation, the relevant section in our view of the standards is 4.4.5, which does provide that construction of a replacement garage shall approximate the original configuration, form, massing, style. So in our view, our interpretation of that standard, if the existing historic garage was one story, any replacement garage must also be one story. You don't get to 4.4.11 or 4.4.12 unless you don't know what the historic garage consisted of. If you don't know, then you can go to 4.4.11 and 4.4.12. But then also in response to Mr. Box's comments, the standards and guidelines adopted in 2019 does make it clear that a standard where shall is used is a rule or principle that is used as a basis for judgment. A guideline is a policy or recommended approach. This is from the guidelines that were adopted by the City Council. So, as applied in this document, it says, a standard is established by mandatory terms such as shall or will, and guidelines are established by permissive terms such as should or may. If you look at the language of 4.4.5, it is construction of a replacement garage shall approximate the original configuration. That is not permissive language, that is mandatory language, and that is the provision that controls in our position, in our opinion, because here we know we have an existing garage that is historic, that is one story.
Katie, did you have something else you wanted to add?
I just wanted to read, this is from Chapter 59, Section 4250.4I, Unique Circumstances. It is acknowledged that some applications to the Historic Preservation Commission will require approval of work that does not strictly comply with the standards set forth in the Preservation Standards and Guidelines, or which is not addressed by the guidelines, but which is nevertheless historically appropriate and in compliance with the intent of the guidelines and the Secretary of the Interior standards. In such circumstances, the Historic Preservation Commission may approve a certificate of appropriateness for such work upon issuing a detailed finding that the proposed work is historically appropriate and is consistent with the spirit and intent of the Preservation Standards and Guidelines, and that the proposed work will not adversely affect the historic character of the property or the integrity of the historic district. So that is the provision under which the commission can approve something that does not meet a guideline. In this case, they reviewed this garage. I think we saw this 5 times because they applied once and withdrew and applied again. And they did not identify a unique circumstance that warranted approval of the 2-story garage. However, they have the ability to do that and have done that in other cases.
Yeah. I think that provides a lot of clarity. I spent time serving on Urban Design Commission, which was primarily subjective review. I look at HP like that. We know we review a lot of cases where we may have an opinion one way, but are limited by rules as far as what we can consider. And so my big issue today was what we were allowed and not allowed to consider. But given what we've heard, it seems clear that we're well within our purview to act as what we see as most appropriate, or if the application is appropriate. I feel like staff has outlined an argument that makes sense. Not that staff is arguing for it, but in what they've outlined in the staff report and what we've heard today, I don't feel that stepping out of bounds by saying it appears appropriate. It looks like if a garage was going to be designed, this one was designed to be sensitive to the fact that it's in a historic neighborhood. Could other things have been done? Maybe, I don't know, but what we have before us does look appropriate.
Do we have anything else from the board, Emma?
I would just like to follow up on what you said about unique circumstances. Do you mind giving some additional information regarding that? When you refer to unique circumstances, now did I understand you to say that in this particular instance, an application has been filed several times and there were several different designs presented? Is that correct?
There was the same design presented
Okay.
each time. It was heard 2, if not 3 times, and withdrawn, and then they reapplied with a new application number to kind of pause, stop the clock, submit some additional information, and then reapply. But the design itself didn't change. So.
Okay, in each circumstance, was the application from a 1-story garage to a 2-story garage?
Yes.
Are there other examples where, in other cases, where someone has applied to go from a 1-story garage to a 2-story garage and is similar to this circumstance that you're aware of?
I don't know how specific we want to get with similar, but yes, we've had, as the appellant noted, we pulled about 55 cases over the past 10 years from the records that we keep that were for construction of a 2-story garage. Of those, 15 to 20 were going from 1-story to 2-story over 10 years.
Thank you.
Yep.
Anything else from the board? David, Kelly? All right. Are we ready for a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve case number 16005 and uphold the appeal by the applicant, the appellant, on the basis that it meets the statutory requirements.
So the motion is to sustain the appeal and reverse the decision of the HP Commission.
Correct.
Did I say that right?
Yes.
Okay. We have a motion and a second. This would be to approve, to sustain the appeal and reverse the decision of the commission. Cast your votes. Okay, 3 votes to sustain the appeal. Okay. Thank you. All right. I don't have any additional items. We don't have any board committees. Does anybody want to say anything? Rita?
No.
Citizens to be heard. Nobody signed up. I don't have any other business. I say we're adjourned.